Welcome to the New Mexico Suncast. I'm Jim Williams, and our special guest, Mayling Armijo. She is a candidate for mayor of Albuquerque in 2025. That's coming up quicker than you think.
So quick. Yeah, less than 60 days. So
Now, Mayling, I haven't ever talked to anybody that isn't a politico, if I could say that. You've worked in economic development, you've worked in government, you love New Mexico, you love Albuquerque, and we're going to find out all about that. Why did you decide to run for governor or for mayor? I'm sorry, not for governor.
So I think working in public service and public administration for 15 years, you see the politicians that kind of go through this revolving door, and some are good and some aren't. And we've seen that over the years, especially in Albuquerque and in New Mexico. What I haven't seen is a politician who is in the prime of her career, is obviously doing well, says, you know what, I'm going to give all that up and run for office, because if I don't do it now, if I don't try and fix it now, and what is it going to look like later? And so yeah, I'm a political outsider. I never was really tied to any party. I was independent most of my life, and I decided that this is something I have to do, and it's not just for me; it's for my family and my friends and my community, because I know I can affect that change.
Well, you were 10 years in economic development for Bernalillo County.
Right.
That's just one of the ways that you've served.
Yeah.
So you know a lot about bringing businesses in and dealing with them and hearing from them. And I guess in many ways, when you're in that position, you get all the noise.
Yes.
And you have to intercept that. But then you also kind of have to give credit to the politicians for all the good stuff you do.
Absolutely. And that was fine. I didn't have any problem doing that, because I enjoyed doing the deal. I enjoyed figuring it out, putting the pieces together, problem solving, and getting it done. I enjoyed that. And I enjoyed letting whoever take the credit for it, or however they wanted to do it. Didn't matter, because at the end of the day, it got done and people benefited and jobs were created. There was no ego involved. It was just getting it done. And I think, unfortunately, we haven't seen a lot of economic development in the city in some time. So nobody's getting it done. And that's what concerns me.
So you don't want to continue the insanity.
If you wanted to bottom line it, yes, that
That's
would
right.
be that would be the way to say it.
Let's back up way back. Before you started doing economic development, you've been raised in this area. Tell us about your history in New Mexico.
So I was born in Albuquerque. I'll even go a little bit further back. So my father is born and raised at Albuquerque. He generations before Armijos were here since before it was a state. But when my father went to Vietnam, he, on his way back, was assigned to a base in Taiwan and met my mother, and then married her and brought her back, and like a good Catholic family, raised 6 kids. And so I have five siblings, 4 of which live here, and they all brought children into this world. And so I have 15 nieces and nephews, and I'm pretty sure 11. Yes, I'm pretty sure 11 live here. I think 1 moved to Denver recently. And so yeah, we have quite the history here. And then that's not. I mean, I have numerous cousins. My father is one of 8, so I have many aunts and uncles, and so it's all over. We're all over the state.
I love it. Tell me about favorite things. Favorite restaurant?
Well, Duran's is my favorite. I go there once a week. I have to get the red chili fix in Duran's, and people always ask, like, well, what's your favorite, red or green? Well, it just depends on what I'm eating, because I like green on my cheeseburgers and in my enchiladas, but I also I like red on my eggs in the morning. So it just depends on the food. And then sometimes Christmas, you just want both.
Amen.
You just can't help it.
One of the few places in the world you can have Christmas year round.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I will say, you bring up Duran's red chili. It's bright red. It's so pretty. Isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, the chili is just different, very tasty.
And
I
it's
enjoy it.
so hot, like my skull's sweating. Not sure if I'm having a hot flash or eating Duran's chili sometimes.
That is hysterical. Is there, did your mom bring back some traditional Vietnamese or Taiwanese food?
So when we were growing up, she always cooked. So we were used to like the Taiwanese style of cooking. She doesn't do it so much. She's close to 80 these days, but she doesn't cook as much. So we're used to like rice as a staple. I think we'll go like a week and I'll be like, I think I need a bowl of rice. Like you crave certain things that you grew up on. You're a little bit pickier in Chinese restaurants because you're like, well, this is not the way my mom made it. And so.
And the Armijos obviously have a tradition of New Mexican flavors that they push, right?
Yeah, absolutely. My grandmother was, I think only my sister has been able to mirror my grandmother's green chili enchiladas. And so it's those little things. I'm sure an aunt is going to call me later and tell me that she can do it.
You mentioned walking with the dog. Are you a hiker, walker?
Hiker. I love to hike. I love to run. I love outdoor activities. I have 2 dogs. One's an old guy rescue, and then the other one's an American bully. She's not a hiker. She's just a chunky girl that likes to sit around, and she's super sweet. She's more of the just come and spoon me all day, where the other one's like, I want to go hike 10 miles. So I get the best of both worlds with 2 different types of dogs.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Why should people come to New Mexico and be part of our environment, open businesses and things?
Well, if you had asked me this question 10 years ago, I would say come to New Mexico because we have a business-friendly environment. We are pro-business. We're not here to penalize businesses. I would say we have the best weather in the sense that if you're in a manufacturing, if you talk to manufacturers, weather is important. If you're talking to warehousing and distributors, again, we have the space, we have the intersections, I-40 and I-25, we have rail. So these are things that we could pitch back in the day, and it worked. And we had incentives that were open to all businesses. And now they're trying, not only are we so business unfriendly, we are favoring different groups over others, and it's turning businesses off when you could go to another state and they're just like, thank you for building. Thank you for investing in our state.
I love it. I love it. Let's talk about your campaign themes.
Okay.
And then we'll build on that. Mayling Armijo is with us today on the New Mexico Suncast. She's a candidate for Albuquerque Mayor 2025. That election comes up the first Tuesday of November.
November 4th, yeah.
November 4th. So, we obviously wanted to get our viewers a lot of information about you and have them get to know you a little bit. Sometimes that's not the easiest thing to do, especially with 60 days left in the campaign.
That's true.
So you got a lot going on. Talk to us about your campaign themes.
So our focus is crime, homelessness, and job growth. But really the overarching issue is crime. And so because it impacts every level of life that we are in, whether it's small businesses or just the day-to-day.
I might lump all of that together as safety.
Yeah, public safety, sure. Yeah, being safe. And so that's our big thing. And, what I have always been known for, and anybody that I've worked with or anybody I've served with, I've always been one to set outcomes or measured outcomes and achieve those. Like, we're going to do that. We're going to meet it and strive to exceed it. And so we want to focus on public safety, trust back into the community. I want people to be able to go to parks and not run into needles or homeless or be accosted or not worry about which gas station they're pulling into or have to plan their route in order to get around the city and to avoid homeless encampments or different parts of the city. And businesses don't have to worry about, customers being infringed upon as they try to get to their business. These are like just the day-to-day.
as I'm thinking about what you're saying, I'm a native New Mexican, been in Albuquerque. I remember my parents built a new home up near Brentwood Hills and Wantabo. This
Yeah,
between
familiar.
Indy and School Minot.
Yeah.
And at the time they built the house, we were the only home. There was probably 6 or 8 cul-de-sacs.
Right.
And they poured all the asphalt so you could see these cul-de-sacs and the curbing and everything, but they didn't build out the lots.
Right.
So we were the first house at the end of the street, and I spent all my time as a 5-year-old and 6-year-old riding my bike everywhere. I used to ride it all the way from there down to Wyoming and Manal, and I'd go to Van's bike shop when I was 7. I wouldn't let my 7-year-old go off the block now.
Right. Well, or the front yard.
Yeah, I mean, it's different now.
It is.
And I don't think that Albuquerque's the exception, but it definitely could be better.
Right.
So you started our conversation today talking about you're leaving a career and wanting to be the mayor of Albuquerque to make significant changes. Tell us a little bit about what you feel your most important accomplishment has been working in public service.
I think as the director of economic development, putting a team together and accomplishing what we did as far as $1.4 billion in private investments.
So you work for the county,
The Bernalillo County.
but you had to work with the city. And tell us all the people you had to work with to get that done.
Well, we had to work with the state, the city. It depended. Sometimes we worked with the village. It just depended on what the project was. We had to work with developers. We had to work with neighborhood associations. So it's multifaceted when you're doing economic development. But and that's the accomplishment in itself, is that you have the versatility, or we as a team had the versatility to work with these different groups, come together and get a project done. And so you have to have that leadership to be able to get that collaboration going. And I want to do that again for the city. You know, I started in economic development at the state under Bill Richardson. And right, wrong, or indifferent about Bill Richardson, he was the best when it came to economic development. He would go and pound pavement for the state and bring deals in. And I just don't see a lot of that happening. And that's what I want to do for the city, is let's generate the interest in the city. The first thing we have to do is make it feel safe again and improve the quality of life for just the current residents now, and be small business focused and promote our own small businesses. So we got to get our house clean, basically, is what I'm saying. We got to fix it up. We've got to get it right. And then we can start bringing it in. We've improved the quality of life. Crime is down. And as a result, economic development, economic growth will happen.
This isn't on our list of topics, so I don't want to trap you in this.
No, it's okay.
I think you'll appreciate that. I've spent the last couple days in preparation for this interview and others looking at the budgets that Albuquerque has proposed over the last few years. So I looked at 2025, which is now over, and 2026, and that's been adopted. In both of those budgets, the budget document actually says they're planning on having 1,100 Albuquerque police officers. But it says I think it mentions the goal is 1,200, but they only have 1,100, and they're only budgeting for 1,000. But actually, they have less than 900 officers.
This is true.
What are questions that citizens should ask about that kind of thing? Because there's money budgeted that's obviously not going to pay police officers. I might add to that the DOJ is no longer overseeing the Albuquerque Police Department as of May or something of 2024.
Right.
So now, what are the excuses that we're still short of police officers?
I don't know. I'm sure they have plenty of excuses. What I can tell you is my perception is that it is a leadership issue. If you are having a hard time recruiting, if you're having a hard time building a team, then leadership is your challenge. And you've got to fix it from the top. we're the highest paid, APD is the highest paid police department in the region. So why aren't they flocking? Well, I'm sure there are people in the department that talk, or people who have left the department for other areas, and they're like, yeah, it's just not worth the money. Or I can actually be a cop and arrest and do certain things in other parts of the state or different states and not have to worry about being micromanaged when I do my job. And so I think the first thing, well, I know the first thing we'll need to do is change the leadership at APD.
Tell me what you see. What needs to happen at City Hall? You're mentioning the leadership. Obviously, Tim Keller is the current mayor.
Yep.
Your opponent in this
Yes.
election. I've seen in past elections where there was very unfriendly rhetoric.
Yeah.
I've not seen so much of that this time, at least yet.
Right.
What do you see as changes that need to be made? I mean, you've been a citizen. You've been here living under a two-term mayor.
Right.
Where do you see those deficiencies? What will you change?
Well, I think the deficiency, again, is the leadership. The big thing is let's talk about how the city's managed. And you brought up the budget, right? I looked at the budget too. Here's what you didn't see when you looked at the budget. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. When you looked at the budget, each department had a budget. What was not tied to their budget was measured outcomes. What are you as a citizen getting for your money when the community services or park services department is got a $5 million budget? What are they doing with that, right? And what do they hope to achieve? In addition to whatever money they get from the state or the feds, what are we hoping to achieve by this year's budget? What is this year's budget going to accomplish? None of that is communicated to the council, to the citizens, and I think that's been a huge disconnect, is how is this actually being managed? Now, I run a private company. When I present a budget, I tell them, here's what we're going to achieve this year based on this budget. I have to achieve certain goals. I have to work. I have to pound pavement in order to get it done. And if I don't, either, well, if I do, I'm getting bonused. If I don't, then I'm getting penalized, right? And there is no penalty in government when you don't achieve something. The only thing is that either the politician is elected out or he's reelected because of the apathy. So I think we need to, one, have a standard in government. We need to have some expectations in our politicians and in our public servants. We need to know what is going on, and we need to be transparent about it. What are we hiding?
Is it wrong for a citizen of Albuquerque, or is it judgmental for somebody to say, under Tim Keller's administration, we've had difficulty both recruiting and retaining police officers? Why is that? Is that an unfair question?
No, I don't think that's unfair at all.
And you've talked about the leadership both in City Hall and then, of course, in the police department. It's funny because the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department's in the same building as the Albuquerque Police Department, but the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department hasn't had any trouble recruiting, even through the Keller administration. So it is perplexing, and at least it's a question. I don't know the answer. Maybe your expertise is not law enforcement, but it sounds like to me from what you've said as part of your platform that you would bring in qualified leadership.
Right. And as a Navy veteran, I understand what it is to wear a uniform, and I understand command structure. So the objective when I speak about leadership in APD is not for me to go in there and run it. It is for me to hire a police chief, a very qualified police chief, who understands my objectives as the mayor. And he, as the police chief, needs to figure out how to get those desired end results. So I'm not in the business of micromanaging police. And you're right. I have no idea what it is to be a cop. But I do understand command structure, and I understand chain of command. And in that type of environment, when you're working in those types of situations, you have to know you can trust your leadership, that they have your back so that you can do your job.
I'm thinking as you're talking about this, I didn't know that you were a Navy veteran. Thank you for your service.
Oh.
I mean, it's really cool. I love that. It's especially neat to me to say thank you because you're risking your life for people you don't even know. And I just think that's an amazing thing. It really is. And now you're choosing to service again if you're elected mayor of the city of Albuquerque. It's supposed to be a nonpartisan election, but how does partisan politics play into all of this?
I think that, unfortunately, I don't understand how it plays into it. It perplexes me in a lot of ways. It's confusing, to be honest with you.
I guess I would think I'm thinking as I ask that, and maybe I should have clarified. I'm thinking as I ask it that partisan politics actually has more to do with special interest.
Yes.
And I'm talking about both sides of the aisle.
Sure.
The Republicans are getting money from some special interest. The Democrats are getting money from some special interest. And they want to influence the mayor in some way. Have you been exposed to that, or that's not going to come until after you're elected?
Probably after I'm elected, because I have not been, I guess, solicited in some way by a special interest group. I think there are groups that are concerned about your opinion on certain things. And now that I think about your question, when I think Democrat and Republican, I just think the Republicans tend to be conservative on every level, where Democrats tend to be more liberal. And I consider myself very moderate on the Democrat side, because I am, when it comes to fiscal matters, you would probably very much put me on the conservative side of things. And a lot of people think just because I'm former military that I'm immediately a Republican, which is not, because I'm very liberal on the social issues. So your beliefs could align with either party. And I think the population, whether in New Mexico or in the United States, reflects a very middle ground philosophy. And so you find more people in the middle where they're like, yeah, we need to have a balanced budget. I need to know what you're doing with my tax dollars, and I need to understand that you're spending them correctly. But at the same time, I'm not really going to be concerned with all these other social issues. I'm concerned about my livelihood, my quality of life, and those are the things that concern me. But maybe the Republican Party makes issue of one thing and the Democrat Party makes an issue of another. And most people are just I just want to live my life. And I want to be safe.
You've mentioned that you might be conservative fiscally.
Yeah.
With that in mind, it sounds though like because you've been in economic development, you understand the risk-reward proposition, the profit and loss risk when you bring businesses into New Mexico. So business owners now, they say permits take forever. Like if you're involved in commercial construction or something, land development, that discourages investors. What would you do different when it comes to just economic development than what's being done now? Maybe you'd implement stuff that you did when you were serving in that capacity.
Yeah, and when I served in the capacity of economic development director, I always told my team, we will work at the speed of business. We have certain things we're obligated to do as far as notices and timing of meetings, and we abided by that. If we had to inform neighborhood associations, we let them know right away, because we knew that they needed time to respond and look into things. And so we need the culture of city government has to change, and it has to change at the top, and you have to work at the speed of business. We have to be like, you need a permit. Okay, let's get you that permit in 30 days or less, because in 30 days, if this contractor has the permit, that means people are working. That means money is being spent. It's churning. The economy is churning when there are being permits issued. When we complete inspections and people can open and get their certificate of occupancies, that means the business is working, the business is open, people are spending money. And so that's what blows my mind and confuses me, is that you as a city function are the key to keeping businesses churning, and yet you are so slow. Why? Why is that? Where is the ROI on that?
Yes. Well, and I like that accountability as part of the budget. And when you said that earlier, after I said I reviewed the budget documents. I also noticed that there's actually no actuarials ever published.
No.
Here's the budget, but what did you actually spend by the end of the year?
Yeah.
You'll never see that report.
Yeah. And they're required by the Department of Finance, the State Department of Finance, to provide a CAFR, which is a consolidated financial report at the end of the year. But even then, you don't get, if you look at the city's CAFR, there is no detail in that.
Yeah, it's very vague.
Yes.
It kind of just talks about maybe 3 categories, and then, this is our revenues, this is our expenses.
Right. One, here's 30% went here and 40% went here. Well, what did you get for 30%? It never tells you what you get for 30%, but you can look down your street at your park and see what it didn't do.
Yeah. Obviously, and you mentioned it early in your introduction, that Albuquerque's got a big homeless problem.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people that are living on the streets. We have all kinds of proposals. Recently, I hear that we're going to close the state fair and build some kind of public housing on the state fairgrounds. I mean, various iterations of all these different things. How do you see the problem right now, and have you actually seen some plans that you feel like would actually work and start to address the problem?
So it's very multifaceted. So there's people who don't want to be homeless, paycheck to paycheck. There are mental health issues, challenges, and the resultant homelessness, addiction. And then there's some people who want to be homeless. And that's the unfortunate part. So the proposals, if you're talking about people who don't want to be homeless and who are struggling, like those programs, a housing first approach, compassion in trying to figure out what we need to do so that we can keep you in a home as opposed to on the street, those people will work to not be on the street. And I understand that. I understand that struggle. And so I get that. The challenge, I think, in just walking down First Street or walking down Central or going down Alvarado in San Mateo, which my career started at that Wells Fargo on San Mateo in Alvarado. And so I'm very familiar with the neighborhood. And it is deteriorated on many levels since I worked in that area. The addiction is a tough one, and then the ones that just want to be homeless and the crime, and it's tied together. And that is where we are having challenges. I think the city is scared to do anything about it. You have Supreme Court rulings, and then you have our own state judges making rulings on that. But nobody wants to make the hard decisions on where they should go or where they should be. And that needs to be addressed. And I think currently, right now, this administration is afraid to do anything. They're afraid to be sued. I'm not sure why they haven't done anything, but there's no reason there should be encampments on First Street or anywhere near a business or in a park, anywhere near your home. Why is that? We're making it too comfortable for them, and we need to address that. We need to be aggressive when we do.
I have a relative that works for the Social Security Administration.
Yeah.
They have a big building downtown near one of the parks that you mentioned, and every single morning there's at least 40 or 50 people camped out in that park. They actually have a crew of city workers that comes twice a day and cleans out, the hypodermic needles and everything going on. So, as you've mentioned, there's different reasons for people being homeless. I would say there's people that want help and people that don't.
Yep.
And then I think there's people that don't know they need help. In fact, they don't have the cognitivity to
Yes.
actually know.
Right.
And I'm not sure that we can just keep having them live on the street.
No, we can't. But there have been solutions that they have done in other cities that we need to mirror. For example, if when they're having a cognitive challenge or mental health issue, if we just provided, and I understand there's a lot of things going on with the insurance, but what if the city, instead of putting money into cleaning hypodermic needles and all of the things, cleaning that out, making it uncomfortable for homeless to be homeless, but took that money and focused on the mental health issues and said, okay, if you need lithium, which is not a narcotic, let's provide you lithium, because if it levels you out so that you can, one, get a job and pay your rent, then let's do that. Let's take a more active approach to the mental health challenges that we're having, instead of, well, we can get them assessed, but what are we doing as a treatment plan? And I think we need to be a little bit more active and forthcoming in treating the mental health homeless population.
So the election happens. This is, we don't have a lot of time left, so I kind of wanted to give people action items, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So let's say that you're elected and you have a first day in office. And I know you're just kind of thinking about this,
Yeah.
but what would you do the first day in office to help address crime in our city?
Well, I think before the first day I'm in, I will have done the work to appoint a new police chief. Hopefully that I will have the time between the election and the first day in office to get that in place, because that is so critical. The second thing is we need to look at city administration, who they are, what they're doing, and how many of them are, because he has, not only because the budget has grown so much over the years, so has the number of city employees. So we need to assess, what is each of them doing, and what are we getting done, and are we being effective? So those are the two things the first day that we'll need to look at.
I'm always fascinated with, I went to the University of New Mexico. Mm-hmm. By the way, I didn't ask you if you root for the Lobos or the Aggies.
I am a Lobo.
Okay.
Yes.
Me too. I love the Aggies. They're my second favorite team, but that's a whole different discussion. What I was going to say is we have what I view as very highly touted universities. I think New Mexico State. I think the University of New Mexico.
Tech.
I think New Mexico Tech is one of the tops in the country. I think Highlands has a good reputation, Eastern, Western, et cetera. And I hope I didn't leave Northern New Mexico University. I didn't want to leave anybody out. But so here we have a good base of higher education. We have 2 national laboratories. Mm-hmm. And we have one of those located in Albuquerque. Mm-hmm. And very few times do I see technology transfer to companies that are operating not only in New Mexico, but in Albuquerque. Is there a way to change that?
Well, we have to make it a business-friendly environment. Mm-hmm. It really just comes down to that. It's not complicated. If you just said to a business, we want you here, what do we need to do to keep you here and to make it easier for you to grow and develop your company? Mm. And I've seen it done. They're like, well, and I know some people are like, well, businesses get greedy. When they're startups or they're even mid-level businesses, they're not greedy. They get very simple because they understand the bottom line. And they will just tell you, this is what we need to do. This is the gap between us being where we're at now and what we need to be at the next level.
So it sounds like businesses you've talked to want to stay here.
Absolutely.
Or they want to be here.
Yes, absolutely. People want to be here.
And does that have a lot to do with the things you said earlier about hiking and food and just the quality of life here?
Yes, and unfortunately, and I hate to keep pounding this drum, but it all revolves around the level of crime because it's impacted our quality of life so much in the last 8 to 10 years. And on every level, and if we just don't wrap our heads around it, and if we don't make change, major change, like drastic changes, we won't see the results that we need in short order.
There's a quote, and I don't know when you made this statement, but it says, "You've said infrastructure isn't about potholes. It's about preparing Albuquerque for the future." So what investments would you make in the infrastructure in Albuquerque?
So, so funny because roads are so important. So, so I would definitely invest in
We
roads.
do have a lot of potholes.
Yeah, we do have a lot of potholes. My own street, I'm I'm worried about, but so roads definitely needs to be, but major bypasses need to be, like we're working on the Sunport, the one that wraps around to the west side. Like those are good. We need more infrastructure on the west side, and we need to focus as far as building out infrastructure that allows for businesses to come. So we have a lot of raw land. But putting a water line in there or getting power or having, talking to P&M about building a substation in different areas. And in a lot of cases, we need to upgrade our systems. And so we need to look at what infill development we can improve in as far as existing infrastructure, which include roads and potholes. But it is...
We still have areas of our city that flood.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
Thank
little
you.
things
Yes.
like that, I don't understand. I mean, I've been here for a long time and we're
Yes.
still flooding the same areas.
Yes, and we know this, and we know. Okay? So remember downtown when they got all that flooding?
Yes.
And it was horrible, and people were having to evacuate. Have we fixed that?
No, and I know a lot of really neat people down in the South Valley. They're so frustrated with, why is the water all the way up to my doorstep? This happens every time we have one of those rains, which fortunately only happen once every 3 or 5 years, but they do happen.
Yeah, and I mean, you can talk about doing new systems and all the things, but if we don't improve our infrastructure and our drainage system now, then anything else is not going to matter because it's still going to flood.
Yeah.
And people aren't going to be able to.
Here's another quote. And this will really be our last question.
Okay.
You've argued that City Hall should run lean before growing. So where would you see the biggest inefficiencies right now?
Oh, probably in the I think it's the 10th floor. It's wherever their administration is, wherever the mayor's office is. I mean, from what I'm understanding, he's got the most number of PIOs. He's got a lot of senior admin staff. I'm not understanding why you need so much staff to do what the city has done. It's not like the city has grown in population. So why do you need more city employees? Why has it grown so much? So we need to lean out. I'm sure we need to lean out.
Especially when you're not reporting what you've accomplished.
Exactly. I'm liking where your head is.
Well, yeah. I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm kind of thinking about the existing. And, and by the way, we invite Tim Keller to come on our program too. Even now, they haven't responded. But I get the sense that there's not a record as a 2-term mayor that he feels comfortable asking questions. And that's a little perplexing to me.
Right.
What should voters be asking? In conclusion, what should they say? Okay, here comes the mayor's election. These are the questions we are asking, and what areas does Mayling Armijo fulfill?
Right.
What questions do you answer for them?
Well, I think the major questions I answer is I have the leadership and management experience to get it done. I've managed large budgets. I understand. I don't understand being a cop, but I understand wearing a uniform. So I get the challenges that APD faces.
But you've mentioned command structure, and that seems simple to most of us.
Yes.
Command structure is really important.
Yes, yeah, especially in those types of organizations. It's incredibly important because it keeps command and control of all things. And what we don't see from this administration is command and control. They do not understand what is going on in this community. They are deaf to it. And I think what voters need to look at when they're looking at the 7 candidates on the ballot is who is the most qualified. And I know I'm more qualified than all the other candidates, including the current mayor. And he will tout that he's a veteran leader, but his leadership has failed. He's a failed leader. And we can and we will make the changes in Albuquerque so that we live up to our full potential.
I love it. And then you'll tell us that you did it.
Yes, I will. And I'll tell you how I did it. And you'll know what you're getting for your money.
That's a lot of fun. Mayling Armijo, thank you. Good luck in the election, and anything that we can do to help deliver the message to the public, we would like to be involved in that.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Thank
This
you.
was fun.